She mocked the human's tiny weapon until he pulled out the bigger one hidden below. The war arena of Caraxes Prime was built to inspire fear. Its floor was made of black stone harder than steel, scarred by thousands of past battles. High above, energy shields curved like invisible walls, holding in heat, sound, and death. Millions of alien spectators filled the rising seats, their voices blending into a low, hungry roar. They had come to watch another execution disguised as a duel. At the center of the arena stood Commander Sarixa, champion of the Voltari Dominion. She was tall, nearly twice the height of a human, her armored body covered in glowing combat runes. A heavy plasma cannon rested easily in her upper arms, humming with contained power. She had defeated war beasts, rebels, and enemy champions without mercy. To her people, she was a living symbol of dominance. Across from her, escorted by armed guards, walked a single human. His name was Captain Elias Vorn of Earth's Defense Fleet. He looked small in comparison. His armor was plain, scratched from travel and capture. There were no glowing symbols, no energy fields surrounding him. At his side hung a simple metal weapon, short, solid, and clearly outdated by galactic standards. When the spectators noticed it, laughter spread like fire. "Is that all?" one alien shouted. "A toy," another cried. Sarixa tilted her head and studied the human with open amusement. Her voice echoed through the arena speakers, translated instantly into every known language. "So this is humanity's warrior," she said, her tone sharp with mockery. "You send a soldier with a tiny kinetic weapon to face me." She raised her plasma cannon slightly, letting its glow bright. "This arena has consumed civilizations stronger than yours." Elias did not respond. He stood calmly, his dark eyes moving slowly across the arena. He watched the shield emitters. He noted the positions of the guard towers. He listened, not to the crowd, but to the rhythm of the energy systems beneath the floor. To anyone else, he looked afraid. He was not. Humans had learned long ago that survival did not come from shouting back. It came from observing, adapting, and waiting. Sarixa laughed again, louder this time. "Look at him," she said to the crowd. "Silent, frozen. Even now he knows he will die." She stepped closer, each footstep cracking stone. "Tell me, human, does that little weapon make you feel brave?" Elias finally raised his head. His voice was calm, steady, and carried no anger. "It's enough," he said. More laughter followed. Sarixa turned to the arena overseers and spread her arms. "You see, they don't even understand the scale of war. They think courage replaces power." She faced Elias again. "I will give you one mercy. You may fire first." The guards retreated. The arena lights dimmed. The duel protocol activated. A deep horn sounded. The battle began. Sarixa did not rush. She didn't need to. Her plasma cannon powered up, its charge lighting the arena floor. She wanted the crowd to see everything. Elias moved, not forward, sideways. He sprinted toward a fallen stone pillar near the arena's edge. The movement surprised some spectators, but Sarixa only smiled. "Running already," she fired. A blast of plasma struck the ground where Elias had stood seconds before. The stone melted instantly, sending waves of heat through the air. The crowd cheered. Elias rolled behind cover, feeling the heat lick across his armor. He did not panic. He had expected this. Plasma weapons always led with intimidation. He leaned out briefly and fired his weapon once. The sound was sharp and loud, different from energy weapons. The projectile struck a small sensor node embedded in the arena wall. Sparks flew. One section of the overhead shield flickered for half a second. Almost no one noticed. Except Sarixa. Her smile faded just a little. She fired again, faster this time. Elias moved between cover points, never stopping, never firing wildly. Each shot he took was precise, not at Sarixa but at the environment. A control plate, a relay, a cooling vent. The crowd's laughter began to thin. "He's missing," someone said. "No," another replied slowly. He's aiming at something else. Serixa growled softly. She advanced, firing in controlled bursts, trying to force the human into a corner. But Elias always slipped away at the last moment, using debris, shadows, and timing. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy, but they were very good at learning quickly. A plasma blast struck near Elias, throwing him to the ground. His armor cracked along one shoulder, pain flared, sharp and bright. Serixa raised her cannon, confident. "Stay down," she commanded. "You've entertained us enough." Elias pushed himself up. Slowly, the crowd grew quiet. Blood ran down his arm, but his grip on the weapon was steady. His eyes were focused not on Serixa but on the faint pulsing line beneath the arena floor, the energy conduit. He fired again. This time the shot hit deep. The arena lights flickered. A low hum echoed through the structure. Serixa froze. She looked down, then back at the human. "What did you do?" Elias did not answer. He took a step back and rested his hand briefly against the lower section of his armor, just below his waist, where thick plates overlapped in an unusual pattern. Serixa noticed it. Her eyes narrowed. The crowd leaned forward. Something was wrong. The human's weapon was small, but his confidence had grown. And for the first time since the duel began, Serixa felt uncertainty. Far beneath the arena floor, systems older than the Dominion stirred, responding to damage they were never meant to detect. Elias straightened, breathing steady despite the pain. Humanity had never survived by winning fair fights. They survived by making sure the fight was never what the enemy expected. And this. A low vibration passed through the stone floor, light but noticeable. The crowd, once loud and cruel, fell into uneasy silence. Commander Serixa tightened her grip on the plasma cannon. Her eyes never left the human. Elias Vorn stood still, his breathing controlled. Pain pulsed through his injured shoulder, but he forced his body to remain calm. Panic wasted energy. Humans learned that early. "You damaged restricted systems," Serixa said sharply. "This arena is protected by Dominion law." Elias tilted his head slightly. "Then it shouldn't have been built with weaknesses." Murmurs spread through the stands. Serixa snarled and fired again. The plasma blast roared toward Elias, tearing through the air with deadly heat. Elias dove, sliding across the stone floor as the blast scorched the space where he had been standing. The impact sent chunks of molten stone flying. He rolled behind a broken pillar and stayed low. Serixa advanced faster now. No more show, no more mockery. Her steps were heavy, controlled, hunting. "Enough games," she said. "You will fall." She fired twice more, forcing Elias to move. He sprinted, boots pounding the stone, weaving between wreckage. Each movement was deliberate, each breath measured. As he ran, his free hand brushed again against the lower plates of his armor. The crowd noticed. "What is he touching?" someone whispered. "He's injured," another replied. "That's all." But Serixa was not convinced. She had fought countless enemies. Fear always showed itself the same way: wild shots, shaking movements, desperate retreats. Elias showed none of those. Instead, he fired again. The shot struck a thin seam along the arena floor. A spark flashed, followed by a sharp crack. The vibration beneath their feet increased. This time everyone felt it. "What is happening?" an overseer shouted from the control balcony. Serixa paused her advance for half a second. Her gaze flicked toward the balcony, then back to Elias. "You planned this," she said slowly. Elias did not smile. "I prepared for it." She fired again, anger now driving her aim. Elias barely escaped, rolling behind a fallen barricade. Heat washed over him. His armor alarms screamed warnings he ignored. The arena shook harder. Cracks began to spread across the stone floor, thin at first, then branching outward like broken glass. The crowd erupted, not with laughter but fear. "The arena is destabilizing. Shut it down." Serixa turned and roared at the control balcony. "Stabilize the field now." The response was slow, too slow. Elias pushed himself up, using the barricade for support. His vision blurred for a moment, but he forced focus. He raised his small weapon again and fired at a glowing node near the edge of the arena. The lights went out completely. Darkness swallowed the arena. For one long second there was nothing. No sound, no light, no cheers. Then emergency lighting activated, bathing everything in dim red. Sarixa stood frozen, her plasma cannon powering down as safety systems engaged automatically. She looked around in disbelief. "That system is sealed," she muttered. "No outsider should be able to," a loud clang echoed beneath the floor. Something unlocked. Elias straightened fully now. Blood stained his armor, but his posture was steady. He slowly stepped out from cover, making no effort to hide. Sarixa turned to face him. "What are you?" she demanded. Elias stopped several meters away. "A soldier," he said. "Same as you," she scoffed. "No, soldiers fight with strength." He shook his head slightly. "Soldiers fight to win." The vibration beneath them grew stronger. A section of the arena floor collapsed inward, revealing metal plating and thick conduits glowing with unstable energy. Gasps echoed from the stands. "That's a core access layer." Why was it so close to the surface? Elias glanced briefly at the exposed systems, then back to Sarixa. "Your empire builds for intimidation," he said. "Big weapons, big arenas, big shows." He took another step forward. "Humans build for survival." Sarixa raised her cannon again, forcing it to override safety locks. The weapon whined, struggling to recharge. "You think breaking my arena makes you strong?" she shouted. "You are still alone." Elias reached down, slowly, deliberately. His fingers moved beneath the lower armor plates. The crowd leaned forward as one. Sarix's eyes widened. "What is that?" Elias did not answer. He unlocked a hidden clasp. A deep mechanical sound followed, different from anything the arena systems produced. Something unfolded. The metal beneath his armor shifted, expanding outward and downward. Plates slid apart, revealing a compact but heavy device locked against his thigh and extending below his waist. It was not elegant. It was not glowing. It was solid, dense, and unmistakably human. The air pressure in the arena changed slightly as the device powered on. Several engineers in the control balcony went pale. "That's not a weapon," one whispered. "That's a field manipulator." Sarixa took a step back without realizing it. Elias rested his hand on the grip, but he did not raise it. "This is why I didn't shoot you," he said calmly. "This ends arenas, not duels." The vibration beneath the floor surged. The exposed conduits sparked wildly before stabilizing, under Elias' control. The arena shields flickered back on, but weaker now, bending inward instead of outward. Sarixa felt the pressure change. Her armor compensated automatically. "What have you done?" she asked, her voice lower now. Elias met her gaze. "I took away your advantage." The crowd was silent. Not one voice spoke. For the first time in her long career, Commander Sarixa realized the truth too late. The human's small weapon had never been meant to defeat her. It was bait, and the bigger weapon he had hidden below was not meant to kill. It was meant to change the rules of the fight. Elias stood firm as the arena trembled around them. And far beyond Caraxes Prime, unseen sensors across the sector recorded something new and terrifying. Human technology had just rewritten the balance of power. And the duel was far from over. The arena of Caraxes Prime felt smaller now, not because its walls had moved, but because control had shifted. The red emergency lights pulsed slowly, casting long shadows across the cracked floor. The exposed conduits beneath the stone hummed in a deep, steady rhythm, no longer wild or unstable. They responded to a single source, Elias Vorn. He stood with one hand resting on the large device revealed beneath his armor. It was fully deployed now, anchored against his leg and extending downward like a heavy mechanical limb. Small stabilizers pressed into the floor, locking it in place. The air shimmered faintly around him. Commander Sarixa took another step back. Her instincts screamed danger even though no shot had been fired. "This arena belongs to the Dominion," she said, forcing strength into her voice. "You cannot control it." Elias looked around slowly. The crowd, the cracked floor, the failing systems. "I don't need to own it," he said. "I just need it to listen." He activated the device. The hum deepened. Gravity shifted. It was subtle at first. Loose debris slid a few centimeters across the floor. A fallen weapon rolled toward Elias without being touched. Sarixa felt it immediately. Her armor recalibrated, warning symbols flashing inside her visor. "Gravitational distortion detected," her system reported. She fired. The plasma bolt screamed toward Elias, but halfway through the arena it bent. The blast curved slightly, missing him and slamming into the wall instead. Shock rippled through the stands. He didn't dodge. The shot moved. Sarixa stared at the smoking impact point, then back at the human. "That's impossible," she whispered. Elias did not raise his weapon. He didn't need to. "The bigger weapon isn't always louder," he said calmly. "Sometimes it just makes everything else quieter." He adjusted the device's controls. The gravity field intensified around him, forming an invisible dome. The floor beneath Sarixa cracked as pressure increased unevenly. She stumbled, barely catching her balance. Her cannon felt heavier, much heavier. She gritted her teeth and advanced anyway, muscles straining under the shifting force. Every step was a fight. "You think this makes you superior," she growled. "You still bleed." She fired again, forcing the cannon to maximum output. This time the blast didn't curve. It collapsed. The plasma compressed in on itself, destabilized by the gravity field, and detonated midair in a burst of harmless light. The crowd gasped. Elias remained untouched. Sarix's confidence shattered. "That device," she said slowly, fear creeping into her voice, "it wasn't meant for war." "No," Elias agreed. "It was meant for survival." He took a step forward. The gravity shifted again, pressing Sarixa downward. Her armor compensated, but only partially. Cracks formed beneath her feet. "You mock small weapons," Elias continued. "But humans learned long ago, if you can't match power, you change physics." Sarixa roared and charged. It was a mistake. As she entered the strongest part of the gravity field, her momentum vanished. She slammed into an invisible wall of pressure and fell hard to one knee. The plasma cannon slipped from her grasp and hit the ground with a heavy crash. The sound echoed like a verdict. Silence followed. The crowd didn't cheer. They couldn't. They were watching a champion fall without blood, without brutality, defeated by understanding, not force. Elias approached slowly, carefully adjusting the field so he could move freely. He stopped several steps away from Sarixa. She tried to stand. She failed. Her breathing was heavy now, her eyes locked onto Elias, not with hatred but disbelief. "Why haven't you killed me?" she demanded. Elias looked at her for a long moment. "Because this isn't about you." He turned slightly, letting the arena cameras capture everything. "This arena exists to prove dominance," he said, his voice carrying through the broken speakers. "To show others that resistance is pointless." He gestured around them. "Today it shows something else." Sarixa struggled again, managing to lift her head. "And what is that?" she asked bitterly. "That power isn't the same as control," Elias replied. "And fear isn't the same as respect." The gravity field shifted once more, not tighter but wider. The pressure spread evenly across the arena, stabilizing the damaged structure. The vibrations faded. Engineers in the control balcony stared at their consoles in shock. "He's stabilizing it," one said. "He's preventing a collapse." Elias reached up and disabled the gravity field slowly. The hum softened, then faded to silence. The weight lifted. Sarixa collapsed fully onto the stone, exhausted but alive. Elias knelt briefly and retrieved his small weapon, holstering it without ceremony. Then he retracted the larger device. The plates folded back into his armor, hidden once more beneath overlapping metal. To the outside eye, he was just a wounded human again. Sarixa watched him with wide eyes. "You could have destroyed this place," she said quietly. "Why didn't you?" Elias stood. "Because destruction is easy," he answered. "Stopping before that's harder." Security forces rushed into the arena, weapons raised but uncertain. They hesitated when Elias turned toward them. "Stand down," Sarixa said weakly. They froze. She pushed herself upright with effort, using the ground for support. She looked out at the crowd, her people, then back at the human. "You have made your point," she said. "The duel is over." A pause followed. Then slowly the arena broadcast systems came back online. Across Caraxes Prime and far beyond, it was announced. The human champion remained standing. The message spread like fire across the sector. Worlds that had dismissed humanity as weak began to ask new questions. What else had humans hidden? What other small weapons were merely distractions? And what would happen if humanity ever decided not just to survive, but to lead? Elias Vorn walked toward the arena exit, bloodied but unbroken. Behind him, Commander Sarixa watched in silence. For the first time in her life, she understood something the Dominion never taught. The most dangerous beings in the galaxy were not the loudest. They were the ones who changed the rules and then chose restraint. And the story was not finished yet. The quiet after the battle felt strange. Elias Vorn had left the arena, his steps slow but steady. His blood was still fresh on his armor, a reminder of the cost of victory. But to the millions watching from their screens, there was no sign of triumph in his movements. He had not raised his weapon in anger. He had not yelled a victory cry. In a way, the human had done the impossible. He had won, without firing a single fatal shot. The control balcony was in chaos. Overseers scrambled to assess the damage to the arena systems. Engineers rushed to stabilize the gravity field, though their efforts were now irrelevant. Elias had already proven that even the most advanced technology could be controlled by a human mind. In the stands, the murmurs of the crowd began. At first, it was disbelief, then fear, and finally awe. The Voltari Dominion's greatest champion, Sarixa, had been bested. Not by superior strength, not by advanced weaponry, but by intelligence and calculation. Sarix's own people were questioning everything. And in the distance, far beyond Caraxes Prime, the message was already spreading across the galaxy. Humanity had revealed a power far greater than anyone expected. Hours later, Elias sat in a small, dimly lit room within the arena complex. The walls were lined with cold metal, the air still heavy with the remnants of the battle. Despite his victory, his body ached. The wound on his shoulder throbbed, but his mind was clear. He had done what he came to do, but there was still much to consider. The door slid open and Sarixa entered, her imposing figure moving with the same strength it had earlier. She no longer wore the confident air of a champion. Now she looked different. There was no arrogance in her eyes, only something deeper, something closer to respect. "I have to admit," she began, her voice steady but not mocking, "I underestimated you." Elias looked up from the table where he had been examining the small weapon he had used earlier. His expression remained neutral. "It happens." She took a step forward, lowering her head slightly. "Your tactics, they were brilliant. You didn't try to overpower me. You didn't fight to win in the traditional sense. You fought to change the game, to disrupt everything I knew." Elias nodded, setting the weapon down. "When you understand the rules of the game better than your opponent, you don't need to play by their rules. You just need to make them see that there's a different way to win." Sarix's gaze softened for a moment. "And that was your plan all along." Elias leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "I didn't know if it would work, but I knew one thing: you weren't expecting this." Sarixa walked around the table, her armored boots clicking softly against the metal floor. "You forced me to think about things I haven't considered before, about how we view strength and power." She paused. "And now the entire galaxy is asking questions. What will they do with that knowledge?" Elias turned to face her, his eyes sharp. They'll do what humans always do. They'll keep moving forward. They'll adapt. They'll survive. A silence fell between them, but it was not uncomfortable. It was a shared understanding, a recognition of something deeper. "Do you think they'll come for us?" she asked quietly. Elias didn't hesitate. "No, you can't fight something you don't fully understand," Saraxa frowned. "And you think the Dominion will simply let this slide? Your victory, it changes everything." He smiled, though it wasn't a smile of amusement. It was a smile of certainty. "They can't stop it. The information is already out there. No matter how much they try to bury it, the truth will spread. And that, Saraxa, is something no empire can control forever." She studied him for a long moment before speaking again. "You really believe that humanity has the strength to lead this galaxy?" Elias' smile widened slightly. "Not yet, but we will. And when we do, we'll do it on our terms." Saraxa finally allowed herself a rare, faint smile. "You're not like the others." "No," he agreed. "And neither are you." Later that day, the news broke across Caraxes Prime. The human champion declared victor. The announcement was quick, but the ripples of its impact spread far and wide. Across the Dominion, ambassadors, officials, and military leaders gathered to discuss the ramifications. Some argued for a retaliatory strike, others for diplomacy, but the truth was undeniable. The world had just witnessed a shift in power, one that could not easily be undone. But even within the Dominion, there were voices that spoke in quiet corners of the halls. They did not fear humanity's technology. They feared humanity's mind. The battle on Caraxes Prime had proven one thing above all else: humans were not to be underestimated. As the days passed, Saraxa was taken to a private chamber where she was to be evaluated by her superiors. She had failed. She had lost to a human, a race she had dismissed as primitive. But in the end, it was clear that failure had not diminished her status. She was still the commander of the Voltari Dominion's forces. She was still one of the most formidable warriors in the galaxy. But the spark of understanding had been lit within her. She knew the rules had changed, and there would be no going back. Back on Earth, Elias' victory was met with celebration, but the leaders of his world were careful. They knew that the galaxy was watching, waiting for humanity's next move. The victory was important, but it was only a piece of a much larger puzzle. Elias' success wasn't just about defeating Saraxa. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity had potential, a potential that hadn't been seen before. For now, Elias returned to his team, ready to report on the mission and the challenges that lay ahead. His wounds would heal. His mind would sharpen, and humanity would continue to grow, to learn, and to lead. And across the stars, there were whispers. The story of the human who changed the rules of the game. The story of the human who dared to stand up to the Voltari Dominion. The story of the humans who had only just begun to play.